As I get older, it's becoming harder and harder to enjoy games like I used to when I was a kid. It was so easy back then, wasn't it? It was so easy to get lost in that world. I remember I would come home from school, and I would try to finish my homework as fast as possible so I can continue my gaming session from the day before. Growing up, my brother and I shared all of our gaming consoles, so we would have to take turns playing the PlayStation on the TV. If it was his turn, I would pivot to our handhelds like our Game Boy or Nintendo DS. But no matter how I was experiencing the game, I always found it so easy to get immersed in that world, and hours would pass by in the blink of an eye. My only concept of time would be when my mom said it's time for dinner, or when my dad said it's time for bed. That's a luxury now, I think. A luxury that I don't think I will ever be able to afford again. And sometimes it makes me sad. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's me trying to tell myself that I'm just overthinking it, convincing myself that it's as easy to get back to that time as picking up the controller and turning on the console. But it's not easy at all, is it? Life has so much friction now. Responsibilities scrape down our brain until there's only enough room for maintenance and not enough for leisure. Everything is about being productive now, and wasting time is considered a sin. Time is measured in how much you optimize every second of your life, but never in how much you actually enjoyed it. I didn't realize I felt this way until I was reflecting on the games I finished last year, and trying to see a common pattern on why it was one of the best gaming years I've had in a long time. I found that it is still possible to enjoy games like I did back then. Maybe not in the exact same way, but close enough that it can almost feel the same. I just need to work a little harder for it now. And a major part of that is reducing my mental load before I even sit down to start a game, and listening to myself about what I actually want when I do decide to play. This is how I'm approaching gaming in 2026. By taking care of my responsibilities first, I can enjoy the time I spent gaming without thinking about what I still need to do before the day ends. And by listening to myself and meeting my mental capacity where it is, I can minimize the feeling that I wasted my time than if I were to keep doing something I didn't even want to do in the first place. There's a saying I've always liked. Life is like a rock. It's hard. And it's true. One minute I'm 12 and I'm on a journey to save Spira from sin, and the next I'm logging into 100 different apps to pay bills as soon as the money hits my account. It takes a toll on you, being an adult with adult responsibilities. Now that I have my own family on top of other responsibilities and hobbies and interests, it's becoming more important to develop a routine, because it's so easy to forget to take care of ourselves in the middle of everything. And we end up burning ourselves out before we even get the chance to enjoy what we're working so hard to be able to do. The mental strain alone can easily bleed into whatever's left of our personal time. Trying to reconcile doing what we need to do with what we want to do is starting to feel like taking a math test, where we have to figure out the best formula to solve an impossible problem. For example, if I take work and add chores, subtract gaming, divide by 2, carry the 1, then use the Pythagorean theorem, it's all just too much. There has to be a better way to incorporate responsibility in a way that doesn't detract from my personal time. So I thought, why not remove it from the equation altogether? And for me at least, this question gave me a starting point to making a meaningful difference in the way I approach gaming now. In the culinary industry, there's a term called mise en place, which translates to everything in its place. It means preparing all of your ingredients and tools before you start cooking. This allows the chef to focus all of their attention on the act of cooking itself, which is the culmination and payoff of the entire activity. I realized that this concept can also apply to my personal time, and I used it to try and figure out a way to maximize the enjoyment that I have with gaming. Instead of ingredients measured out in bowls, my mise en place would be responsibilities, and once I finish them, I can just focus on spending my personal time however I want. And the first and very important step is to figure out non-negotiable responsibilities. For me, my non-negotiables after work are family time, like eating dinner and watching TV with my husband, housework, such as chores and feeding and cleaning up after the cats, and evening routine, which is brushing my teeth, skincare, and setting myself up for the next day. Once I finish these non-negotiables, the rest of the day opens up. It's at that moment that I can figure out how I'm feeling before deciding on what I really want to do. Do I want to play a game? Do I want to catch up on a show? Do I want to take a break altogether and just doom scroll? No matter what I choose, the good thing is that since I've done everything I needed to do beforehand, I can do any combination and not have to worry about anything else while I'm doing it. I don't have to worry about washing dishes or brushing my teeth after I finish a gaming session. I have set myself up so that the only thing I need to do after I turn off the game is to climb into bed and get ready to sleep. By checking things off a list, I'm reducing my mental load and increasing my overall capacity to enjoy something after a full day's work. The less friction there is, the easier it is to start something. It's also allowed me the space and opportunity to really listen to myself and what I need in that moment, which had been very instrumental in how much I enjoyed gaming last year. Just having enough time, though, is not usually enough to make the most out of gaming, at least for me. A lot of it too has to do with how I'm feeling when I do decide to sit down and play. Do I want to continue what I've been playing for the past week? Am I having enough fun with it to want to finish it, or do I want to start something new? Do I even want to play? When I started asking myself these questions and really listening to my feelings and gauging my capacity, I was able to learn when to put down a game, or when to switch genres, or even when to take a break entirely. And it led me to having a healthier relationship with gaming, I think. It does require a lot of effort on my part, because there are times when I feel really guilty for wasting my time by going on my phone, or by doing something else instead of playing a game I've been trying to finish for longer than I normally would. I also have to contend with feeling like I have to make the most out of the limited time that I have to optimize every bit of free time because time is the one resource I can never recover. And I would end up trying to formulate rigid schedules to force some kind of meaningful productivity, just so I can feel like I'm not wasting time. But wouldn't it also be wasting time if I were to do something I didn't want to do in the first place? When I force myself to do things for the sake of being productive, what am I even being productive for? It all goes back to a realization that I had in my previous video. Acceptance versus resistance. I was beginning to understand. The more I resisted, the less fun I was having. Acceptance versus resistance. I think it applies here too. The more I try to impose these arbitrary goals to feel productive, the less inclined I feel to actually do them. And it creates more mental stress because I have to reconcile my non-action with the feeling of wasting my time and not being as productive as I should, which can pile on and on until it becomes too much to juggle and I shut down. And the only thing I can do is go towards the path of least resistance, which usually involves doom scrolling until I fall asleep. I learned that in order to make the most of my free time, I need to take off as much mental load as I can so that I can still have the capacity to sit down and enjoy a game. This means listening to myself and what I'm feeling at that moment, and being okay with whatever I end up doing, even if it doesn't line up exactly with what I had planned to do in the beginning. When I was going through my experience with gaming in 2025, I realized that I should follow what I want to do, and that it's okay to drop a game when I've gotten what I needed out of it. After Far Cry 5, I tried a bunch of different games unsuccessfully. I tried to switch back to a Souls-like and played Code Vein, but I wasn't being receptive of the nuances of the combat, and it made the game so much more frustrating than it needed to be. So I tried a different kind of game, thinking that I was going to have the same revelation as I did with Far Cry 5, and I played Monster Hunter Rise. This also didn't work. The movement and the combat felt so slow and clunky to me, and there was too much information being thrown at me all at once, so I got extremely overwhelmed and I quickly dropped it. Then I thought maybe I just needed to stick to the same first-person shooter genre, and I gave Fallout 4 a try. Surprise! It also didn't work. I think I was comparing the gameplay too much to Far Cry, so I couldn't fully immerse myself in the game. I didn't know at the time that I was actively trying to push against what I really wanted. I just wanted more of the Far Cry gaming loop. And when I listened to my feelings and played New Dawn, I enjoyed my time with it so much that I ended up playing other titles in the series. That was until I hit burnout with Primal. But I got to know myself better at that point, and it came with the realization that I don't need to force myself to keep playing a game if I don't need to anymore. I don't need to continue if it's already done its job. And so I was able to drop a game without feeling bad about the time I'd already spent on it. The shackles of guilt were finally broken, and I was free. It was such a refreshing feeling. Bringing it to the present, since I have some personal things going on, I know that I won't have the mental capacity to play a game where I have to make a lot of choices or decisions. Like an open world game where I have to actively make decisions on what to do or where to go next. Or an RPG with complex interactions and robust gameplay mechanics. Or a Souls-like with difficult boss fights where I have to really lock in and learn attack patterns and play around with builds. Or a game that requires me to be in a certain headspace to enjoy, like a survival horror game where stress is a big part of the immersion and overall experience. So the perfect games for me to play with the mental capacity I have right now are roguelites with relatively simple, or at least simple to understand, gameplay mechanics. Right now I'm revisiting Children of Morta, which I briefly played for the first time back in 2021, and I'm really enjoying my time with it. The repetitive gaming loop is engaging enough to keep me playing, like figuring out what I was doing wrong in the previous run and what I can do differently in the next one. But it's not so complex that it's taking up the mental space I've set aside for actual enjoyment of the game. The gradual progression system also makes me feel like I'm getting somewhere with all the time and effort I'm putting in, so it doesn't feel like I'm just wasting my time doing the same thing over and over again. I think this approach is much healthier for me than forcing myself to do something I already know I'm not going to enjoy. When they say that time is a luxury, they weren't kidding. Growing up, I didn't really have to worry about anything else but myself. Once I got home and homework was done, I was free to do whatever I wanted. I could play a game until I was fighting for my life to stay awake. But that's not the case anymore. I have my own family now, more responsibilities. My mental capacity is draining much faster than it used to, which sometimes eats away at my desire to sit down and enjoy a game. And it's not an easy thing to overcome, this feeling of being drained after you've worked a full shift, then having to do housework and spending time with the family. And by the time you get a few hours of personal time, you've already exhausted your battery so much that the slight inconvenience of sitting down and picking up the controller is enough resistance that it depletes your energy all the way to zero. And all you end up doing is doom scrolling because unlocking your phone has way less resistance than trying to start a game. But by shifting my mindset from resistance to acceptance and making a concerted effort to meet myself where I am, it has helped me reignite my love for video games. I've started to feel less guilty for not continuing a game, or dropping it completely, or even taking a break from gaming itself. It's allowed me to experience the game I do decide to play to the fullest extent. It makes it that much easier to immerse myself because I'm not sharing that space with responsibilities, or things I chose not to do beforehand, and all there is me in the game, just like how it was when I was a kid. I know that things are different now. I no longer have the privilege of having the unlimited time it seemed like I had back then, back when everything was simpler and easier. I can't go back in time and experience gaming the same way I did when I was growing up. But I can take steps to make sure I get as close as possible to enjoy it just as much today, if not even more.